Aloha. Today I wanted to expand off the last video I was talking about. I said I was going to go into a more expanded perspective on how industry, particularly in reference to the wine industry, using that as an example of the effects of the relationships that humanity have overall within the so-called powers that be program in reference to land, and expand that into culture, relationships, spirituality, society, civilization, the university system, and everything that's connected in that realm. I wanted to I'm trying to set this up at the same time. Everything that is surrounding that world that we kind of just take for granted because things have been this way for so long. Things have that's kind of the mentality that the majority of people are within right now. It's this hopeless state of being when you're buying into politics, you're buying into the so-called democracy and so-called capitalism. You're actually buying out of humanity based upon the system, how the system actually functions. There is no humanity in the way that the system functions in relationship to the essence of humanity. It's more focused on profit, control, on a physical and a psychological level. The mind control program that allows us, the masses, to enslave ourselves. And since the level of consciousness that the majority of people have been growing out of has been allowing this system to be for so long, we are where we are right now based upon what we were yesterday and years before that. And that's why it's so crucial to understand who and what you are and who and what you were in order to understand a deeper level of who and what you are now, and who and what you are to become in the future that is within your hands, not within the hands of so-called powers that be. The way the system is designed today is designed to structure your reality based upon the control grid expanding itself around a limited form of expanding consciousness. This is what the technology system is. This is what your military industrial complex is. This is what your animal evolution theory, heliocentric model complex. This is what all this stuff is. And I'm going to go into specifically one of the main complexes that I address a lot, but I wanted to focus it in to give some examples for people who are having a little bit more difficulty with seeing exactly where I'm coming from and seeing how all this stuff is really connected and how it affects us. So I reference a lot of the various complexes that are affecting the individuals and the collective. And a friend of mine was asking about flat earth recently, and we mentioned Dogma, and I was like, yeah, Dogma. Well, if there's a dogma with the heliocentric model, can there be a dogma with the flat earth model? And obviously, yeah, my response was yes. Anything actually can be a dogma. A dogma, the definition is a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. I just read that because it's on here right now, and I wanted to talk about it and memorize that. But that's what the Google definition of dogma is: a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. So this dogma is basically truth from the authority that has laid down these principles for you to understand whatever that is true. So anything, you could worship a banana peel. You could worship, and say, oh, this is the God of the reality. Whatever it is, if that's been going on for centuries, then that's what you will believe. That's what, what is that? Joe versus the volcano, when they went to that island, and all the natives there loved orange soda and worshiped the big woo and all this other stuff. Like anything, basically, it's the dogma, the authoritative dogma that we exist under today is scientism, the religion of scientism. It is the 10% at best understanding of this reality. It is a half at best reality understanding of science, because it doesn't factor in the spiritual relationship that we have and that this physical reality has with the spirit. That's the true alchemy of how everything relates to itself. So basically, how I see the ancient cultures and ancient civilizations that predate the Columbian era, that predate the control grid on a collective scale, all of those stories were telling the same story in different styles. This is why you have cosmologies in the ancient Mayans and in the Hopi and the ancient Cometians or Egyptians. You have the Inca Empire, the Incan cosmology. All of these cosmologies across the earth plane among the Aboriginal and indigenous people were basically saying the same thing, largely not really concerning themselves with the shape of the earth, because really the only reason why everybody's consumed with the shape of the earth is because the shape of the earth is it's the centerpiece of the current dogma that we are underneath today, which is the heliocentric model, and the worshiping the authority of saying you're crazy. You're crazy if you don't believe in the heliocentric model. They have the authority to shut you down. They have the authority. This is why it's so difficult to even talk about this stuff, because the authority has been passed down upon generations, and the installing of so-called intellect is a level of limitation being pawned off as innovation. So limitation is being pawned off as innovation. This is what the evolution theory is, when they tell you we came from nothing to a planet to dinosaurs to monkeys to smartphones. So the system that we exist in today is basically innovated itself into your smartphone. And if you don't worship the smartphone, if you don't worship the system that led up to this, which is the university system, which is capitalism, which is the colonial universe, then something is wrong with you. In fact, you're crazy to even challenge that relationship, and you need to be taken care of, or you've lost your marbles, or whatever it is. You've fallen out of the mind control program, which is literally falling into or expanding yourself into a larger universe. See, when we come into this reality, into this physical reality, and we get our names documented as a corporate entity on the birth certificate and the social security number and so on and so forth, we are literally falling into a universe that is inherently separate from the basic relationship that you have to spirit within this reality, which is why it's so difficult to even challenge these systems. It's so difficult to even question this reality, because once you start questioning the reality and the authority of this artificial reality, then you start going into the out of sort of out of control reality. And since this whole system is based upon control, we are allowing ourselves to be dumbed down and codependent on this artificial reality, largely at the expense of not only nature, but the indigenous and the aboriginal peoples and connections, the understandings that have come before us today. So if we worship so much the technology of today and say this today is the pinnacle of human evolution, according to the monkey evolution theory, then everything before us was primitive and savage. You don't need to know who built the pyramids. You don't need to know what the golden ages of beyond today were. You don't need to know about how the relationships between the Aboriginal and Indigenous people across the earth plane, how they were interacting. You don't need to know any of that stuff. You only need to know what happened after Christopher Columbus showed up to the so-called New World. We are in a new world mind control program. This is why I said in videos a while back, the New World Order is a TV show to make you think that the New World Order hasn't already been installed and activated back when Christopher Columbus came over to the Americas and said, we discovered this shit. That's when the New World Order actually kicked into gear. So all this USA #1, take our country back, make America great again, all this other bullshit. And even the Alex Jones talking about the globalization and all this stuff. All of that is a TV show to make you think that whatever is going on now is what you need to be focusing on, when in fact the real story exists outside of what they're telling you to focus your energy on. So when you focus your energy on it, you're going to bring that into being. And then they're going to tell you, oh, well, this is how this was brought into being. Like when they tell you that you voted for Trump, when we all know that these presidents are selected. So since you think, you know, we get into this so-called intellectual discussion about, well, the reason why Trump got elected is because people are so and then we never allow ourselves to even challenge the entire story. We never allow ourselves to talk about how all presidents are selected. The new world of the post-Columbian era is totally a farce and needs to be addressed. But since that's not the mainstream, that's not the normal conversation, we don't even allow ourselves to go there, because you're getting into empowermentville, when the norm of interactive relationships, and when we communicate with friends, family, peer, even strangers, we are locked into the hopeless, busy, elevator talk reality. And we can't go any outside of that. If we go outside of that, then people start to go into more of themselves. And since people have been, and the norm is to empty yourself out to be like everybody else, or be like a system that is not who and what you are naturally. And that's what I wanted to get into today. But I wanted to start off with that explanation or expansion of dogma, and how we are underneath the dogma of the authority of illusion, the authority of authority, like mainstream authority, the colonial authority over you. And this expands all the way back from the simple stuff of like how we have pets, and how you have how you dominate your pets, your pets in your house. This all goes, it's another way of locking you into the animalistic consciousness, the animalistic relationship, to where, since we are dominated by the system, we have to act out that that energy in some kind of way. So this is what the dog and cat relationship, the domesticating of dogs and cats does to kind of dumb down on a positive note your engagement in the reality and also act out those energies. So since you are treated like an animal, then you have to dominate and control something else, a lower being or whatever it is than you in that relationship. So it also validates being treated like an animal. So this is one thing that I heard somebody say the other day, was in reference to speaking about animals. They don't know any better. They just need to be to do what they do. They're here to do what they do. They don't know any better, and they need us to basically take care of them and tell them what's best for them. See, this is the actual mentality of the white savior complex that I'm getting ready to go into in a second. And it's based upon the animalistic consciousness that we lock ourselves into because we have no spiritual understandings of our reality. We're solely based upon the physical reality, and at best, it's like a 10% version of understanding the physical reality, married with the animalistic consciousness that is anchored in the evolution theory that you come from a monkey. So all of this is a program to control the level of consciousness of humanity and lock that level of consciousness into this illusion of being controlled or something or somebody having authority over you. So there's a difference in overall the way this works is that, like, they just won't call the heliocentric model and they won't call the scientism a religion. They just won't label it as such. You can see how easily everything else is labeled. They will label all this other stuff in order to control it, in order to dominate it. All of this stuff will be labeled quickly so it can be controlled. And that's a way to maintain authority over you by saying this is how this is and that's how that is because we've labeled this and that's in this box and this is in that box. The same with people. People like this are in this box and people like that are in that box. Excuse me. So this is where overall the difference between the authority of truth, which is a dogma, and the observation of truth, which is the expansion of consciousness, comes in. The system is based upon authority, control, manipulating consciousness to maintain low tones, to maintain a low vibration so that you will never expand too much to be not controlled. This is why the public education system is based upon dumbing people down. This is why the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex is based upon installing fear, not only of of the people in your own nation, but across the earth plane, to take this land, to take the consciousness of the people with the illusions of authority that you can see easily that the United States pawns off on the rest of the world, trying to be the authority figure of the rest of the world. They need some freedom. That's an entire mentality that doesn't only exist in the they need some freedom mentality of the earth plane, but down to the very individual. It's the authority of truth. So when they're telling you, when they told you they're going into Iraq, when they told you for something not at all, they just convinced you of something and said, this is the truth. Only based upon the authority of the truth from people who don't have authority over you in the first place. They only have illusions. This tracing it all the way back to the new world, discovering of the new world, that we have the authority to say we discovered the Americas. What the fuck are you talking about? Nobody wants to go back to that point in time and start from there, because largely we're too hopeless, or it seems too big to let go of, and mostly because a lot of people are defending that whatever has happened today as the best thing in the universe since galactic sliced bread. Like, it's just this whole mentality that we are locked into, that's anchored in the heliocentric model, the evolution theory, how we perceive our relationships in the universe as a whole. If we can't break out of that low vibrating authority codependent relationship, then we will constantly be expanding this control grid without even knowing it. We'll just keep allowing with low vibrations, those low vibrations, instead of expanding consciousness, it's just really growing that codependent program in a linear format. So instead of time and consciousness growing in a 360-degree expansion like this, time and humanity is just growing like this, which is basically nothing. It's one little sliver of reality that's being manipulated as the end-all be-all, the best thing in the universe. This is what the heliocentric model is. It's a linear program when, as a whole, individually and collectively, you have the ability to expand everything, yourself, into the entire universe. If you do that as the entire universe, if you do that from the inside out, if you do that, then you cannot be controlled. You can only be controlled if you're on one singular line, because they can put a stop sign right here and say, look, you need to go back. This is what the presidency stuff is. When you're going like this and, oh, Obama, yeah. Oh, that was like, oh, we went up a little bit. And then when Trump went down, we went down. Now we're down here. And then that's basically just another way of saying, you're not going anywhere. Stop. When overall you have the ability to expand all the way throughout. You see what I'm saying? So this is how the entire system is designed to keep us as individuals and collectives from expanding beyond the level of codependency, mind control programming, and just overall low vibrating limited consciousness. So, like, when I'm sharing stuff on this channel, I'm not saying that like this is the truth, because how I see what the truth is in your existence. So by you observing your reality, you are a sliver of the truth by purely existing. So by living your reality from your most empowered space, then you are allowing yourself to understand and understand and overstand a deeper layer of the truth, as your entire life is related to every other life form in existence. You are not being subjected, because that's how I understand what death really is, or what evil really is potential energy that doesn't get activated. It's just allowing it to. It's just zombies. That's like the worst form. Like the commission said that ignorance is actually evil. In the American civilization, we say ignorance is bliss. See, that's like, because this whole system has been reversed and sold to us backwards in order to control. That's a difference between expanding consciousness and controlling consciousness. So yeah, I'll get into these other things in a second, because these are just expansions off of what I wanted to talk about. But I wanted to expand upon that dogma reality, and also that sort of entitlement that comes from the evolution theory, the heliocentric model, having pride in yourself because you're the manager of some corporation and you have a degree or whatever it is. Like, it's this artificial version of interaction where this artificial ego starts to expand, And then we don't even understand what our meaning and purpose is on an individual level. So how the hell are we going to understand what our meaning and purpose is on a collective level? It's unrealistic. It's basically like, oh, like how so many people that are working at like Home Depot or any of these other corporations, like how many of those people in there are musicians? How many of them would rather be, making music, composing music every day? How many of those people would rather be doing this? But since the system overall is designed this way, we just allow this to be. So that's actually affecting the expansion of consciousness, like how much the music industry affects human music overall. When they put these pop pieces of shit in front of you and say, these are celebrities, you need to be trying to make music like this, you need to be dressing like this person. Like, this is how consciousness is affected. Celebrities, like all these actors, they're put in your face to affect the overall consciousness. Movies, just like they install the heliocentric model in every single movie that you see, it's the same effect. It's about dumbing down consciousness. Like I said, that linear program, that linear expansion. Like I was talking about the presidents, your pop stars, your Taylor Swifts, your Kanye West, Kim Kardashian. Like, that's an actual consciousness. Also, you can get even further into the way people are interacting with the so-called, like, challenging the system. Like when they put these actors out there with the DAPL and all this other stuff, that's a limited form of consciousness. So when they put it in your face and then you say, oh, well, things are actually changing, I'm glad things are changing, that means that's what that's doing. It's working because it's making you not actually tune in to a deeper layer of how you can understand this reality changing and how it's really not changing, and it's actually expanding and becoming more and more. It's just becoming more intricate. These slave chains are becoming more invisible, and they're using these celebrities as these invisible slave chains to make it to pass upon us the illusion of not being enslaved, not being disempowered, not being mind controlled, not being conditioned within a limited state of consciousness. So they put these actors out there, they put these comedians, they put these athletes out there in front of you to say, yeah, to make you say, yeah, I'm glad he said something about that. I'm glad she said something about that. Man, things really are changing. I'm glad things are changing. And it's all a big illusion. It's all a big lie, because they're only going to be put in your face based upon what the system wants to put in your face. Like I said in the last video, this revolution or evolution of consciousness will not be trendivized. It will not be, nothing on the trending page will actually be beneficial for truly expanding consciousness, because if they did, it would remove the system over. It would like disassemble the mind control program. They won't allow that information to be out there. And if they do, as the overall mind control program, if it does, it will only be to label it as such. This is why any of this information that gets out there, like the Kyrie Irving stuff, they put a video on the trending the other day talking about Kyrie pretty much like renounces or doesn't believe, or believes that science says that the earth is round, or whatever it is. It will only be to set up another position for the next mental conditioning program to be sold to people. So it's only being used to be labeled. That's what all that stuff is. It's 90% 90% distraction and 10% labeling, or 80%, whatever percentage. The majority is to just distract you, and the remaining percentage is to mind control and condition you to think and act a certain way. That's what all the trending and the mainstream media stuff really is. So, yeah, I think I pretty much went into the animalistic consciousness. I wanted to make that clear because that pretty much sets up this white savior complex, which is the slide that you're looking at now. That is largely being activated in the subconscious of our relationships with each other and ourselves without us even knowing it. This is how this alchemy actually works. The conscious reality is to distract you from empowering yourself, but the subconscious programming and conditioning that happens from the stuff behind the veil, behind the scenes, is what actually affects the expansion and lack thereof of consciousness. So this is what all these systems are related to. So this is just like a top 10 list of some of the main things in kind of an order, I guess in the order that I just put it together from the top down, from like back in the day up until today, but not really, because it all like works together at one single moment at one time. Even back then, it's the same thing. All the stuff in number 10 still relates to ancient Rome back in the day when the bread and circus was being actually activated as a bread and circus in the gladiator arena back then. So I just wanted to lay all these out to help people see more of where I'm coming from, who are still, a lot of people, well, just to put it out there really, but still a lot of people are still having difficulty with understanding how race fits in this whole program, or having difficulty seeing the supremacy program or the savior complex and all that other stuff. So I like to expand it even further to take the personal personal feeling out of it, and like the emotional feelings out of it, and really just kind of expand it so we can see that this is not about your emotions or what you feel about something. This is actual information. These are actual programs that exist in our everyday reality today that aren't brand new, that's been existing for generations and centuries, and they still exist. There today is just an expansion of that. So like I was saying before, the white savior complex is activated in everyday relationships. Here's an example of the entitlement energy that people see every day. I was just eating breakfast the other day, and this guy came in, and he was going to work on like the coffee machine or something, and he was talking to the barista, and she told him her name, and then I think she said her name was like Maricela or something like that. I think it was like Maricela or something, but she said it like that, like Maricela. So that's how you're supposed to say it. And his response was, "Oh, I guess you got a bit of an accent there, huh? Is that how you that's how you say your name?" And then basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the whole tone of the whole relationship. And her response is, yes, like, yeah, that's the only way you say it, because he was pretty much implying like, oh, aren't you pretty much supposed to pronounce it Maricela or some kind of stupid shit? Like, it's just, that's the entitlement that comes from being so programmed over time that, oh, this is how you're supposed to speak. This is down to her name. I was just, it was sad. It was disturbing. And at the same time, I just had to laugh at the ignorance there. And I was actually happy too, because she was younger than this guy and she held her own. She was just like, basically, you know what? Fuck you. In so many words, fuck you and your entitlement. No, this is the only way my name is spoken. I don't have a fucking accent. This is how the name is spoken. Just because you don't know how to speak like this, don't make me. So it's about control and ownership over that relationship. This shit happens all the time and we don't even know it. So in the last video when I was talking about like when somebody says when somebody was, or video before last, when somebody says to you like, oh, so what are you doing about the system? Like what are you doing every day? Like, first of all, who the fuck gave you the authority to ask me, what I'm doing? So this is how the control grid works. They say it's playing the positive and the negative, the bully and the victim, in order to not win the situation, but to control the board, to control the interaction. This is what the mainstream media is. This is what the university system is. This is what politics, capitalism, democracy, all this, make America great again, give these people freedom, all that shit. God bless America. These are psychological programs that are being installed into people to make you think and feel and act a certain way. It's a sense of entitlement on a collective scale and the individual scale. And if we don't address these things, they will never be expanded upon. They will never be seen for what they are, and we will start to accept them as the everyday, average, normal reality. And that's exactly what happened in that relationship between that older white man and the younger Mexican woman, who was basically, like telling him, what, fuck you. Don't try to put me in this, oh, you're an immigrant box, but taking it to an extreme. Like, you're an immigrant box, obviously, because you have an accent. This is America. Why don't you speak American? Like, that whole stupid ass thing. So I'll get into that in a second, because I think I wrote down like English, or I thought I did. Well, it's caught up in like intellect. I'll get into that list in a second. But that's basically what it is. It's this set of entitlement, this state of entitlement that exists for certain people, and that exists the opposite way for other people, which is on number 9, or number 8, the self-hatred versus self-entitlement. So in my personal interaction, the guy was saying, so I want to get back to the bully victim mentality, because that exists on an individual and a collective scale, and you can see where I'm coming from and how this not only works between interactions between one-on-one, but on the collective scale. So when somebody asks me, so what are you doing? The tone of that is to control, to put that person over me in that moment and say, well, what are you doing? Because I have a history of doing things and you're just a young little nothing. So what are you doing? And because I've done stuff. So that's the tone. Understand the tone of that and see how this switches real quick. So my response could have been, but I was holding back because I was trapped in a car with this individual. So my response could have been, first of all, who the fuck are you to have the authority to ask me with that sort of tone what it is that I am doing in my life, as if I have to do anything that needs your fucking approval. Not only that, my existence here, just like everybody else's existence here, doesn't need to be judged based upon your structured, limited version of reality. But people are so far gone into that self-entitlement that they will project that shit out to you with that tone without even realizing it, and automatically snap back into the victim program. So when I did or could have responded in that space as such, which was, who the fuck are you then what would that response of that individual would have been? Oh, I'm just asking. I'm just asking because I want to know. I want to know what you are doing. I want to know how it is that you are doing this so I can actually do that. So I can actually learn from you. You see, that's a completely different tone. This is the subconscious alchemy that happens without people even knowing it. And you see, the tone actually shifts. This is how the entire system is designed. It shifted from bully of, well, what are you doing, to, oh, well, I just wanted to know so I could help and help myself and understand you and be more in understanding of who and what you are on a personal level. This is that whole victim bully mentality that I'll get into it on a deeper layer in a second, but this is what I wanted to explain upon how it's the tone. The tone is, this is the energy of interactions on an individual and a collective basis. And it's not being understood because we don't understand the depths of language. We don't understand the depths of communication and interaction because we've been so stuck in this linear form of reality of say this, say this, say this, say this, say this, say this. And it's all linear. We don't understand every part of how we are interacting with each other. Just like what's the term for facial expressions and nonverbal communication. So your nonverbal communication is like 70% of the communication when you're talking to somebody. So in reference to, at least in reference to the actual words that are coming out of your mouth. See, there's that nonverbal communication, and then there's that part of that is like the tone, the tonal communication that is part of the explanation that I gave to you before. And the shifting, it's about controlling the dialogue, controlling the foundation, controlling the interaction, and bouncing back and forth between authority and victimization, or bully and victimization. And overall, they just keep playing that program. I say they because it's not structured to any one individual or type of individual. It's just a matter of how we've grown, or pretty much have not grown, or how we've adopted that kind of interaction into the way we speak to each other, how we speak to ourselves. It's a limited form of consciousness based upon dominance and control, dominating. It's not about understanding on a deeper level. It's deception. It's illusion. So they will tell you, oh, I only want to know. You aren't wanting to know when you are putting that authoritative sort of fuck you tone 2 seconds ago. That wasn't at all being addressed. So you see where I'm coming from. That happens on an individual and a collective scale. And I just wanted to expand upon that for this, because to lead into this, and I'll go through this real quick because I pretty much explained everything that I wanted to explain in reference to this, how it affects us individually and collectively. But just to set the tone of how this stuff, how this list that you're looking at right now is going on full throttle today. It's never changed. It's only morphed, shift forms. So obviously the Jesus portrait, the blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus program, the Bible mentality, the Jesuit priests. I just saw that movie the other day, Silence, or not the other day, but like whenever it first came out, Silence, where those Jesuit priests were going to Japan to go spread Christianity, and they wanted to pretty much victimize the priests out there in order to demonize non-Christian faiths or whatever actions with reality and so on and so forth. To do both, to bring up that mentality, because the mainstream religion is scientism, but the religious part of that is Christianity. When you factor in politics and all that other stuff, when they're saying God bless America, on the mainstream perspective, they're talking about a Christian God. Which is also another thing. Why the fuck would you even say that if you actually had humanity in your mentality? Because wouldn't you say God bless humanity? But no, God bless America. So fuck everybody else. That's what that inherently says. So, and even beyond that, what God are they talking about? They ain't talking about no they ain't talking about no most high indigenous and aboriginal understanding of energy as a whole. They're talking about specific alchemical labels for that kind of interaction, spiritual interaction. It's not what the majority of people are talking about. It's programmed differently to affect people differently, metaphysically. So, yeah, pretty much I expanded upon that enough. So the Jesus portrait is one way. Yeah, I forgot the Silence, the movie, the Jesuit program, the expansion. So they have to make heroes, superheroes out of pretty much the colonial agenda. That's what that movie is about. They tell you, oh, this is about just to tell stories about what actually happened. But no, it's not. It's just like that, what I was explaining before. It's about the tone. What's the tone of that movie? What's the tone of the good guys and the bad guys? Because they tell you this is about telling the story of Jesuit priests who were persecuted when they went to Japan. And no, they went over there. Religion is not separated. Church is not separated from state. These churches were built everywhere to set the foundation for land ownership and consciousness mind control programming. The same way they set these vineyards everywhere when the Romans went and conquered all this land, conquered peaceful people from a destructive consciousness, and then put these churches there to validate the illusion of peace and spirituality. That's what the church is really for, to close the gaps of the destructive intelligence being utilized through the colonial agenda to take land ownership and mind control people. So they have to overcompensate so far with the Christian mentality of I'm talking about mainstream Christianity. The church is like, well, we're doing this for you. We have the best intentions in mind ever. So if you deny what the beauty of the Lord that we are sharing with you, then you must be a heathen. You must be a savage. You must be some kind of primitive life form that has zero understanding of the real relationship to God and spirit that is held within the way we are showing you, not in the old primitive ways that you understand. It's the way we tell you. That's what these movies are based upon. These movies are based upon making you think and act that way, and making you be unsure about expanding outside of that mentality. Make you think that you might possibly be doing something bad if you expand outside of that mentality. So that's where this good guy, number 9, black equals bad and white equals good. Self-hatred, self-entitlement. It's the same thing. It's an energy telling you that you need a middleman between the relationship that you have with the Most High Spirit. Not to mention the fact that they are literally inherently taking away your understanding of being a manifestation of that energy. Not just this cosmic mistake or this religious accident, this born in sin accident. So like the cosmic mistake of the Big Bang is just like the religious mentality of being born in sin. Something is wrong with you. Basically, you're nothing. You came from nothing, from the Big Bang, from monkeys. You're an animalistic consciousness. So you have no responsibility of being human or expressing humanity. So on the other hand, in the religious perspective, since you are born in sin from that mentality, then you can just confess your sins to the authority figures of the church to just wash away your animalistic sins that you are just born into. It's not your fault because you're the victim here. You're born into sin. So just channel your energy and your pocketbooks into the church and everything will be okay. Good job. You are an evolved spiritual / religious being, and your spiritual expansion of understanding and interacting with this reality will be based upon the church and the religions that we tell you should be focused upon, not about what you go into. That's just all hoopla. That's just something crazy. You shouldn't even go into that. This is why the flat earth information or talks or interactions are so demonized, because it shakes up the foundations literally of everything that this control grid is based upon. So I want to get through this real quick. I pretty much expanded on it enough. So this list is self-explanatory. I don't really have to explain it. The Jesus portrait is getting into your mind and your child mind, making you hate yourself, making you worship a certain type of person, making you, on one level, on a personal level, then on a spiritual level, you're also separating yourself and you're hating yourself because you're not like that. You don't look like that person. You don't act like the person that person looks like. You don't act like the people that person looks like. So you're on like a deeper layer of heathenism or primitive savagery, because those are the chosen people. This is what the KKK pretty much does. It's the same thing. The white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus portrait being spread across the earth plane. Just picture right now, close your eyes and picture a map of the earth and really just see, like, put some little of those Google pins on every household on the earth plane that has a blonde hair, blue-eyed picture of Jesus in their home. Put a pin on that shit and that would be a good map to this. Just like, this is how many people all over the world are such and such and such and such. And see that as a mind control program. That's the intention of that. It's how many people hate themselves. It's to, you know what it is. I ain't even going there. So on a more political and mainstream perspective after that, so that was the first thing. Get the Bible out there. Get this picture of Jesus out there. We got to get this colonial program going. We need to spread this. And we need to put this out there. Say, look, no, we're doing this in the name of God. We're stealing your fucking land. We're killing your people in the name of God. So if you want to fight this, then something's wrong with you. Why are you fighting this? We are doing this for God. Stabbing your ass. It's ridiculous. Poisoning, sickness, disease, everything. This is the balance. This is the victim, bully, like I was explaining in that last example of, the tone of the conversation, jumping from authority, like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just asking. You didn't have to get so dangerous with me. That's another way to explain or to expand upon, like, making you the criminal, making you the bad guy. When they do that, when they clutch their purse when you walk by them or sit next, that's because of the news programming all this shit. Interactively, it's the same way. It's like, well, I have the authority to ask you what the fuck you're doing because I am obviously successful. Look at me. Like, that's that mentality. And then when you respond by standing in your power of, who the fuck are you? And they do, don't be so angry, don't hit me. That whole fucking shit. It's just about controlling the dialogue, controlling the foundation, making them constantly either the victims or the superheroes. And that's how this dominance works. with the church and the state. That's why they got to tell you, oh, there's a separation. There must be a separation between church and state. Y'all weren't saying that when this program was expanding across the earth plane, setting up these churches all over the place, setting up them so-called pueblos all up South America, all the way up into Oakland, San Francisco, all the way up there. Those churches, the Spanish, it's the same shit. Same shit. We're going to stab you, scalp you, get some money for your taking your land and taking your people and slaughtering your people. But we're not bad guys. We built these churches. So you can't be mad at us. We're just doing the right thing for God. Next. So this is basically the white savior, how the savior complex works. So you have Rome. Today is still Rome. You still have the gladiator arena, the football, the basketball, the baseball, your UFC, literally. The civilization is still run from the Roman perspective, this democracy from the Greco-Roman perspectives, the philosophy of the Greco-Roman perspectives, even the cosmology. Heliocentrism is Western cosmology. So those terms aren't used because they want you to see that as truth. It's not a thing because cosmology is a thing. Creation myths are a thing of the indigenous people. But when they say heliocentrism or the earth is round, they're telling you as truth. They're not saying it's a dogma, like all these theories that are told to you as theories, but they're really saying that it's not a theory, it's just the truth. So stop causing a ruckus in this. The smartest people in the universe all agree on this. So something is wrong with you. That's how they're making illusions truth, by just not labeling it as what it actually is. Western heliocentrism and scientism is Western cosmology. But when they say that, that makes you look at all the cosmologies and cosmological understandings of before Western cosmology. And once you do that, it's done. It's done. The entire system gets uprooted. This is why the flat earth realm questioning of this reality and reconnecting with your ancestors and the indigenous understandings, the indigenous cosmologies, totally rips this shit up. So today's civilization, the way they say civilization is run today, the bread and circus, they're saying, we're doing this for you. This is the best thing ever. So just love it. And if you don't love it, if you fight it, then you'll end up in jail or genocided, slaughtered. They'll just take the land because that's the intention. It's the magic is the destruction. So the intellect, the Aristotle mentality, the Copernicus, the Einstein, the Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, Michio Kaku, Ray Kurzweil, from the history to the present moment, intellect to the future, understandings of intellect and philosophy and so on and so forth. That is still based upon Roman frames of thought. Beyond that, you have today. This is what the university system is today. The politics of today, the laws, the judicial system of today, the so-called democracy of today, the capitalism of today. It's just an expansion of that bread and circus program of back in the day. So you have the patriarchy, which is the formalized out of balance misunderstanding of reality, which demonizes the negative energies or the feminine energies, the darkness. This is what sets the platform of that linear program. The patriarchal program exists first to separate the man from the woman, to create instability, out of balanceness, and codependency, largely because you are not empowered because you're out of balance. So you need the system, which is the patriarchal system, the strong father figure system, to own you and provide for you. When we don't understand that Mother Nature, herself, this very existence of this reality itself, already provides for us. We are already a part of this reality if we were just to go into that understanding. But since the Roman mentality is based upon that out of balance, one-sided version of reality, it will never happen. That's why when people are trying to fix the system from within the system, they don't realize that the system is automatically, it's not supposed to be fixed. It's meant to be broken. So if you fix a patriarchal system, then you're just going to end up with an expansion of what was, and you will never know what you can truly be. So the next one is the new world. I went into this, the psyche of the post-Columbian evolutionism mentality. People's history start at 1492. This is why when they were talking about the Nina and Pinta and Santa Maria, or whatever the hell the fucking boats supposedly were from Christopher Columbus, that's what they tell you this shit in the public education system is like, oh, well, you need to learn this and nothing else. History starts right now. If you want to know about something else, that shit really doesn't matter. This is the only thing that matters, what this is. So that set the platform for that mentality of evolutionism. Like, since you believe in the evolution theory, nothing else before this matters. Colonialism is an expansion of that. The spoils of war consciousness, basically the destructive intelligence consciousness. So like when I said in the last video, and I was talking about the vineyards and the wine industry and the land that was given away for these universities, to build universities and to provide for only a particular group of people, mainly so-called white people, and not non-white people, period. So you're putting people, above other people and putting other people below those people. You're digging a hole and putting people in there and putting other people on the pedestal, the pile that you've created from digging that hole. So it's a double separation. And it's based upon destruction. So this is why people won't even challenge the reality of everything that the Western civilization, so-called civilization, has today is based upon the spoils of war. We are existing in the spoils of war consciousness. And if you want to challenge that, then you're crazy or something is wrong with you, because this is the evolution of humanity. And this is just how it is. So shut up and don't say anything. So this is how colonialism works. And they tell you, we're doing this for your own good. We took out Gaddafi for your own good. No, they took out Gaddafi because they wanted to stop the expansion of African consciousness. They wanted to stop what he was going to be activating in that entire continent and in his country. And chaos is better for that system. Chaos. They'd rather have chaos because they can profit off of that chaos and say, well, things aren't so bad over here, so we need to give them some freedom. We need to clean it up. We need to activate. We need to do this for them. Never copying to the fact that they caused all these problems in the first place. So false futurism, obviously, with the NASA, SpaceX, New Age programming, telling you that we're going to go to Mars and we're going to do all this Europa and all this shit. They're just constantly controlling the tone, the dialogue, the expansion of consciousness or lack thereof, with promising you bread of the future, promising you a bread and circus show of the future. And every time we get to that point of the future, the subject just gets changed. The tone gets changed. The storyline gets changed, just like that interaction I was talking about before. They go from, we're going to go to Mars. And then in 2017, for example, and then when 2017 comes around, oh, well, we have to deal with Donald Trump. That's the main thing. Obviously, we have to deal with that. So don't get too crazy about us going to Mars and all this stuff. We have other things that are more important, obviously. It's just a controlling of the dialogue, controlling of the information, constantly shifting. So they're basically castles made of sand and time stealing your time, stealing your history, which steals your moment because you have no empowerment, no understanding, and you have no ability to create your own future because you're completely codependent on the system. So the mainstream conditioning of Hollywood, politics, the university system. Who do you see in Hollywood? The whitewashing of Hollywood, the whitewashing of the university system, the whitewashing of your politics. The so-called successful people, they put these people in front of you. They're chosen. How many not at all talented people are fucking famous today because they were chosen to maintain a level of consciousness, not because they're talented. Obviously not. For that example, look at Britney Spears when she first came out. That she could not fucking sing. Like, how many other people can sing that don't look like the Barbie mentality, that Barbie complex that they want to control you with? Mainstream conditioning, that's on a regular basis, and it's evolved into social media. It's expanded into the physical reality worshiping of this program, to where, it's all about what you look like. It's not about your soul. It's not about, what's inside of you. It's about, how big your ass is, how toned your body is, and how they don't care about how toned your intellect is or your spirit is. That shit's not understood. It's all about just, creating shallow relationships so you can create shallow babies, offspring of those shallow relationships, which will just create another shallow future. That's another way to steal time in the future. So they focus so much energy on this artificial reality to where you just can't break out of it because we're so consumed by the illusions that we get manipulated by for so long. So the mainstream conditioning, Hollywood, that's every day, your music, politics, university system. So human beauty. So I already pretty much explained that with like the Barbie program. So it not only affects certain people on a positive light, it affects other people on a negative light. So like I said, digging a hole, putting people in those holes, and then putting other people on the podium on the top of that dirt from that hole. So human beauty, from the physical reality, beauty is based upon the physical reality, has nothing to do with your spirit. That's an actual effect that it has on consciousness as a whole. Just imagine if what we were to, because they can make you think and act a certain way. They think, obviously, this is what all this stuff is based upon. So they're making you think and act based upon the physical reality of what beauty is. And they didn't even go into the spirit, how beautiful a strong woman really is, how beautiful an intellectual human being really is. That's fucking beautiful. But this shit that, is manipulated by social media, the mainstream media, Hollywood, all this stuff, trending, all this stuff is meant to control you and your perspectives of humanity as a whole. So it's physically based, which cuts out the spirit, which is just like the university system, how it's inherently atheist. It's focused on the Caucasian perspective of this is why people are bleaching their skin and having plastic surgery for their noses and straightening their hair, hating their hair. So every time they do something, if they do plastic surgery for their nose, they're making themselves look like somebody else, and then they're hating themselves from looking like who and what they are. And then you have like the pageants, like beauty pageants and the Miss Universe and all this. This asshole Donald Trump is actually He used to run all these pageants. So that's like when little kids start to research like who's our president, they're gonna see this shit, and then they're gonna expand upon that. Like, this is what beauty really is. Look at the pageantry. Look at like the Republican House, or look at the Democratic House, the White House as a whole. Like, look at those people. Those are the so-called leaders and successful people in the democracy that we need to trust for the future of this capitalistic society. It's no different than that's like the powerful perspective in reference to politics, or the pageantries. And the pageantries are just like, this is what beauty is. If you don't look like this, you're fucking ugly. And beauty is based upon looking like this. It has nothing to do with how smart they are. It has nothing to do with how deep they are. They're just supposed to look like this, and this is the best looking thing in the universe. Take a look at this shit. Wouldn't you agree? And like, oh, well, yeah, she is very attractive. And then you're just like, poof, that's just done. There's nothing else. Empty. Miss Universe, Miss America, Miss this nation, Miss not even going into the nationalistic expansion. It's part of that. It's just ridiculous. You know what I'm talking about. So even deeper than all of that is the programming by definition of black equals bad and white equals good, all the way up to the Jesus, the white, blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus. Same thing, down to the very definitions. And then you factor in the slave conditioning program and the primitive and savagery mentality programming that is expanded upon every single day with your local news and so on and so forth. That's existing inside everybody, and it creates self-hatred and self-entitlement. So like the story I was explaining earlier about the individual asking me like, whoa, what are you doing? Excuse me. It makes people self-hate themselves, and then it makes other people feel entitled. So they act out that stuff. Their egos get inflamed by this shit. And power goes down for some people, and then other power goes up. And it's all based upon an illusion. Somebody created this shit in the first place, totally out of balance, back up to the patriarchy. Not understanding blackness is not understanding the fabric of the universe, not understanding the balances of the universe as a whole. So this is why they can't go into the deeper layers of that. So when they label black as bad, then they can sell you the heliocentric model. They can sell you racism. It's all starts in first being separated from the balances of nature, the masculine and the feminine. Then it goes into race. So that's why the reason I talk about this is because pretty much walking backwards through time on how we've been conditioned for so long. And race is the most obvious thing and biggest thing to talk about. So if we need to understand where it came from, where it's rooted, where it still exists today, and how it affects us as a whole, and then move on from that. People hate themselves, and other people are feeling entitled enough to think that they have an authority over you because they look a certain way or they've done certain things, not even taking into account the privilege that still exists today. People want to act like white privilege doesn't exist. That shit still exists today. And I'm not talking about, because this job and this, and people didn't talk about, scholarships. I can't get a scholarship because I'm a white male. I can't get a scholarship like an African American male can just get any kind of scholarship. And it's just fucking ridiculous. It's all based upon illusions. That's not what real white privilege really is. On an energetic perspective, that exists partially, part of it. But true privilege is to walk out of the house and not have to worry about, being looked at a certain way. Psychologically, that's the privilege that really exists that most people won't even understand. So-called white people will never, ever understand what it is. And this is not from like a victim sort of thing. No, this is just actual shit that exists that you won't know exists because you haven't had to live with this since you were a fucking baby. This is how deep this program goes. People, babies have been, this goes back into that black doll, white doll experiment. Self-hatred, self-misunderstandings, and so on and so forth. That's the actual privilege and lack thereof that people will never really understand, that we have to start disassembling and seeing where it came from and how it still exists today. So the next one, cultural bleaching, I already really went into that. Hollywood, false history, whitewashing Egypt or Kemet. By doing that, it's a spiritual death, locking you into a less than a 50% understanding of your reality internally and collectively. You have no spirit. And then that turns you into a successful zombie, whether you're a new age zombie or a corporate zombie, whatever it is, or a struggling zombie, just, trying to make it, just doing what you can with what you got, making it, just, providing for your kids. And they ain't nothing but it ain't no different than a corporate successful zombie or a new age zombie. A new age zombie just acting like everything is all right, everything is love and light. As long as I stay in my bubble, then everything is okay, and never really connecting compassionately from an empathetic understanding of reality, that there is no separation between anybody. Truly understanding that there is no separation. See, this is just words when the new age says this shit. But when you really go into understanding the way capitalism and the system is designed today at the expense of the rest of the world, that's when you start getting pulled out of that fake version of love and light and start really connecting with what's going on here on a deeper layer of understanding. So yeah, cultural bleaching. You have no culture. In fact, you install an artificial culture, which is the pop culture or mainstream culture, which is just another formalized version of separating you from your ancestors, your history, your roots, your balances of nature, which all adds up to a spiritual death. And the expansion of that, just because we got to get by, is zombieism. So the next point after that is codependent emptiness. That's when you're such a zombie that you're just generations upon generations dependent on the system of enslavement. So whether you're successful in it or struggling so-called outside of it, it's all within the program. So this is on the deepest level. It's the animalistic consciousness, and the control grid is based upon survival over the soul. So it's the lowest common denominator of experiencing your reality, the animalistic, the physical reality, survival complex over having a soul-driven understanding of this reality. And this is easy to see when you see that profit is more worshipped and celebrated over humanity. Look at what's happening to the oceans. Look at what's happening to society, culture. Look at what's happening with the poverty, the homelessness, everywhere, all over the place. It's more about profit over humanity. And it's anchored in a metaphysical understanding or lack thereof of reality, to where your name, the corporate name that you're giving, is locked away into the state vault on the birth certificate. When I said in the last video, the soles of your feet, those are your soul chakras, your connection to the earth plane, your feet, the way you walk around in this reality is locked away metaphysically in the state vaults, and you are turned into a corporate number, a debt ownership, to where you have to live the rest of your life paying that debt off. That's pretty much it. I'm out of breath. I'm tired. So I know this video's gone on long enough. So if you stuck around for the whole thing, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.